Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of our podcast. It's called Is Breakfast Included? Thanks for stopping by. On the show this week, Lisa and I sit down with a very good friend of mine, Mr. Steve Castro. Steve is a guitar, drum tech, backline tech. He's worked for the likes of Sheryl Crow, Sugarland. He's currently Darius Rucker's drum tech, plus he handles all the acoustic instruments, as well as that comes along with Hootie and the Blowfish. He talks about all that. Another thing, Steve is an amazing friend of mine. He was also, you've heard me mention him on this podcast before. He's kind of like my mentor. He took me under his wing when we first met, showed me the ropes, gave me some direction, and that's why I am where I am today, because of Steve Castro and the kindness he showed me. We talk about all that mushy stuff in the interview. But anyway, it was a great conversation. The three of us had a lot of fun. Let's check it out. Tell everyone who you are.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Steve Castro. I am a backline tech, guitars, drums mostly. I do keyboards as well. Been doing this for going on 31 years now.
31 years.
Yeah, the last 12 doing Darius Rucker and Hootie and the Blowfish both. So
yeah.
It's been fun.
31 years, Castro. Fun. You're a baby in this business.
What's that?
I said you're a baby in this business.
Oh yeah, right. Not compared to some of these guys I come across, man. It's like, wow. You're how I look at it and go, wait, how old are you? So wait. You weren't even born when I started doing this. Okay, never mind. Makes me feel old.
Right, man, right. Man, where are you originally from?
Originally from Hawaii, Oahu, the island of Oahu on Hawaii. Born there, grew up mostly in Southern California, though, but I still got plenty of family in there, so I go back and visit whenever I can. But yeah.
Right on.
In Southern California, Whittier, LA County.
Yeah, that's where you grew up?
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you I've never asked you this, man. Are you a musician? Did you come up playing music? Did you come up doing any?
I did not actually. I mean, my brother was, he had a backyard band when I was growing up, but I really wasn't that much into music as far as, doing that kind of thing. Which I actually just found out recently. I was kind of surprised, but I knew my mom's side of the family was very musical. I mean, all my aunts and uncles played. My brother was my uncle, her brother, used to be the drummer in Don Ho's band back in the 60s when he had his big show at the Hilton Hawaiian Village.
Right on.
But my other uncle plays bass. Most of my aunties play guitar and ukulele. So I guess that's where I got it from. I don't know, but it never really dawned on me to do this for a living,
Yeah. When I was a kid, I used to sing Tiny Bubbles all the time. I used
to play that when I was growing up with them. We'd all sit around at family functions, and I would grab a ukulele, and that's that actually is one of the first songs I ever learned on a ukulele. Tiny Bubbles.
And you still play your uke?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, no, I don't. I don't know if you're the same way as I am. I get home, I've got guitars out the butt, hanging on the wall and everything, and I'm almost embarrassed to say, they are dusty, dirty. The strings are all rusty because I get home, I don't want to tech all these guitars. I just want to relax. I'll do it like twice a year. I'll take everything down, I'll clean them, I'll restring them, I'll set them up, and then I'll hang them back up.
You're a better man than me. I look at mine and I'm like, I'm going to take this to this guy. I'm just going to have him set it up. And I don't even want to tech the guitars I'm out working.
Yeah, sometimes that's true. It's like, man, really?
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what made you want to become a tech? How'd you get your start? And
I just kind of fell into it. I was, I don't know if most guys are like this. I started out, I was living in St. Louis at the time. A friend of mine was in a bar band, and I would go out and help him out, help him set up gear and tune guitars and things like that. And it just kind of ended up growing from there. Working for beer money and gas money because I had a truck, so I could haul all their gear. I had a big truck, so I could haul all their gear for them, so they'd pay me, and that's how it started. And then our sound guy at the time, he got a gig with Sheryl Crow when she didn't even she had just signed. She had that first album coming out, and so he asked me if we'd known each other from the bar circuit in St. Louis and he's like, hey man, she's looking for a guitar tech. Just like, okay, cool. Never done this on the road, but I'll try it. And that was, like I said, 31 years ago.
Wow.
So that was your first gig, Sheryl Crow.
Yeah, that was my first gig. Sheryl Crow, back of in an 18-passenger van with a trailer on the back and cruising around the country.
Is it the Tuesday Night Music Club, right?
Yes, that was it.
Right on, man. Who was the guitar player on that tour?
We had two guitar players. Todd Wolfe, a great blues guitar player. He lives in LA still and plays. He was a lead guitar player. And then we had another gentleman named Roy Scott Bryan, but we just called him Scotty. He was the kind of the utility guy. He played guitar, drums, so I had those two. I had a bass player. I was the only guy, so I took care of the whole stage. So I did drums, bass, everything, keys, setup, all of that stuff. So, but yeah, they were a great man. We have a thread. I have a text thread with all the original guys. Unfortunately, we just lost Scott to cancer a few months ago. But yeah, we would all, hey, happy birthday, and we'd start talking. We still talk to each other. So
yeah,
that's fun.
That's crazy, right? Every tour you go through, you end up with a text thread of just those cats.
Yeah.
Well, and
yeah,
that's an inside joke right there.
Right.
Anytime I say the word cats, anyway,
he says it a lot.
You just have a text thread with those guys you work with, and then that text thread goes on forever. So you have like 6 or 7 text threads of guys you haven't seen in years, but it's almost like you're conversating with them daily.
Your family.
Exactly. You just pick it up right where you left off.
Yeah.
And it's great. I love it.
Yeah. And there's those inside jokes that they still get. The joke is so old, but you're still laughing at it.
Yep. Exactly.
How long were you with Sheryl?
3 years.
So you really saw her take off.
I'm sorry?
You saw her really take off?
Yeah. I saw her really, we went from a van and a trailer to, buses and trucks before I left. And funny, it was, with all the instrumentation she had on that recording, I ended up actually doing some percussion during the shows.
Oh, cool. I
played, a couple different percussions for, 4 or 5 songs during the live shows, which was fun. I mean, I had never had a desire to be on stage. I would rather be a guy sitting back there, so stage fright? No stage fright. Just never had a desire to do it. Mm-hmm. But it turns out, I did actually TV shows, award shows. I was on the Grammys with her. I was on, Tonight Show, all that other stuff. And it's like, people see me and, hey, was that you? Yeah, kind of embarrassed because, 90s had the mullet and, it was,
That's awesome.
Full on proud mullet.
Right. Hey, but you were in style.
Yeah.
The mullet was hot then.
Yep.
What was it like, man, coming from a bar scene to like getting on a bus or an 18-passenger van and just gradually making it up, buses, trailers, award shows, because it happened pretty quick for her.
Yeah, it did. And it was a little bit daunting, from, like I said, playing these small little clubs to, headlining in theaters and arenas and doing TV shows. And it was a little nerve-wracking at first, but, you got used to it real quick.
Yeah. Did you transition to just guitar or just drums once you guys started climbing that ladder and getting more crew guys, or did she just say like, we're going to keep just Steve?
No. We absolutely, as it got bigger, I couldn't do it all. So we actually, we added crew guys, and I actually transitioned more to bass and guitars, bass and drums. I was actually, by the time I left, we had, she had a guitar tech, I was the bass and drum tech. And, so, we had a couple of, audio guys, front of house guy, monitor guy, lighting guy, the whole 9 yards. So I kind of, I think that kind of helped me out. I think if I had to do it all for that whole time, I don't know if I'd have still been in this business. I think it would have burned me out way too quick.
Yeah.
So,
you said you work for Darius Rucker now?
yes.
Okay. Could you walk us through a typical day for you? What it's like, from morning to the show?
Well, let's see. Morning, obviously load in. I do on the Darius gig, I'm drum tech, and then I take care of two other gentlemen, utility guys, mostly the steel player. So I have I like to say I handle all the kind of bluegrass type instruments out on that gig. So I have an acoustic guitar, two banjos, two violins, two dobros, a mandolin, and then his steel guitar. It's a busy day for me, especially the first day out on a run, because I've got to change all the drum head, and then I've got to change all the strings on everything. So I'm busy from pretty much from load in till sound check, and then sound check. I got a little bit of a break after that. So
Yeah,
it's a busy day.
what's the difference between that and the Hootie gig?
The Hootie gig is obviously it's the original four guys. I get this all the time. It's like, oh, I'm so glad. It's great that they're back together. They never really broke up. They were one of those. They got tired of touring. They all had small children back back then, and decided, okay, we've had enough. We still did, or they still did, a handful of shows every year for their charities, different charities. I think in 2019, it was the 20th or 25th. I'm not sure which one. It was the anniversary of Cracked Review. So they decided to do a full tour. And so it was the original four. And then we brought over our utility guy, Gary Murray, who I take care of on the Darius camp, to play, because he filled in a lot of the other instrumentation, mandolin, banjo, violin for songs. So they brought him over. So obviously they needed somebody to take care of him. There's also two other techs on the Hootie tour. One takes care of Mark Bryan, the lead guitar player, and the other gentleman comes over from the Darius camp as well. He takes care of Darius and the bass player. Then we have a drum tech / percussion guy, Gary Green, phenomenal player. So he takes care of the drums, everything percussion and drum wise. So there's actually 4 backline techs on that gig.
Wow. So it's almost like a normal rock gig.
Yeah. Pretty much. And I guess since I got the least amount of stuff to do, so I'm also kind of the set carp, which doesn't involve much. Basically, just setting up the risers, and that's about it as far as set guy.
They always throw in a little extra, don't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's one of those. Well, we're paying you for the Darius thing. You're on salary, rather than you sitting at home doing nothing and getting paid. We're going to bring you out on this, and you still take care of Gary. Plus, you can do these other things. Like, I got no problem with it.
Yeah, I remember when I first started. I started as just a guitar tech, but as gigs came on, I learned to do drums. I'm not fond of doing drums, but in the early days, I would do anything.
Absolutely.
I was like you, like I just wanted to be part of it,
Yep.
But I'm widely known now as a bass tech, which is okay with me, because if they can afford a bass tech, pretty good.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the opposite. I would prefer to do drums than any of the other stuff, because it's more of a physical thing. It's not, as when you're dealing with guitars or basses and amps and everything like that, who knows what could be. Electronics fail. If they're going to fail eventually, so you just hope it doesn't fail during a show. But drums, something breaks, you can see what broke and you can fix it.
It's like an old car. You got spare parts for
it or anything like that. So I'd much rather prefer doing drums. But like you said, it's a lot easier getting a gig when you can do multiple things rather than just being a drum tech.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a lot of bands can afford just a drum tech anymore.
Yeah. I think they can. They just don't want to.
There you go. You get the bean counters involved, and it's like, well, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you could talk about this. I heard this story years ago about Darius that when he left, or when Hootie took the break and he went to do his country album, he recorded a country album, and his label said, "Man, that's just too country." So he had to record what was known as the Darius Rucker album, the first one, because his first album was just because he comes from that country background. He loved that music.
Right.
Is that true?
Honestly, I don't know. I never heard that story. The only, I know in between that he actually did an R&B album.
Which,
right. Yeah, which didn't do great. And he did the country album. But as far as I know, that first album. Now he did have to go back to starting out again. So he got into a car with a label rep, and they drove to every city and talk to the radio people, because basically he'll say this in his interviews. Radio people are like, well, we're not sure the country people were going to accept a black rock and roll singer doing country.
Yeah.
So he actually had to go through to just starting out again, go all the radio stations, do the morning shows, play a couple songs. I mean, he spent a lot of time on the road self-promoting that first album.
Yeah, I remember that. I was still doing country artist, and so I was in that world. And I remember, that battle he had to fight. But man, what a career he's had in country music. On that note, man, because you work so closely with him, like right now, like Beyonce just put out a country album, and she's facing the same things. But I was thinking about it this morning. I was listening to the 2 tracks, and they're actually not that bad. They're not full on country.
I haven't heard them yet.
Man, they're not that bad. She's got one of them with a pedal steel, and it's Beyonce, but
right,
it's not that bad.
Well, a lot of haters out there, and that's all. I'm reading. I've yet to listen to them.
Yeah,
so I'm reserving judgment on it. But that's the haters are going to hate out there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, just because you throw a pedal steel or a violin, in the country world they call it fiddle. Everywhere else they call it a violin. In country, it's called a fiddle.
Yeah.
So just because you throw a fiddle or a pedal steel on it doesn't make it country. And it depends on the song, man. If it's a good song, it's a good song. That's
Do you have a story or about the craziest or most unexpected repair you've ever had to do, or is it pretty just smooth?
There's been a couple. One, Austin. We were doing Austin City Limits. I was with a little indie band called Guster, and we were doing Austin City Limits. And middle of the song, and you don't know what I'm talking about, Marie. It was a bass guitar. It was an old Fender, and they've got the spring-loaded intonation screws.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it just screw broke or whatever. Spring went flying. Or the screw just backed out enough that the spring wasn't flying out, and So they stopped the song, and they're like, "Okay, what are we gonna do?" Because at that time, that's the only baits we had. So I go in my tech box. I pulled out the string from a ballpoint pen, one of those clicky ballpoint pens. Obviously, it wasn't the right spring, but it held the tension on it enough that they could get through. And I intonated it the best I could, and they could get through the rest of the taping with that ballpoint pen spring in there until I could,
that's a pretty crazy story,
right?
Yeah.
That was quick thinking.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
I know, right? Like some of the things that happen, the fixes are like, I would have never thought of that on a normal day, but because of the pressure's there, the show's got to go on, and then you're like, hey, this ballpoint pen has a spring in it. It might just work. Like,
it might just work. I know I don't have a spare spring in my travel tech box. It was a fly gig for us. So it's like, I don't have my normal tech work box. So exactly. It's like, oh wait, I got a ballpoint pen. Maybe this spring will work. I hope it's big enough. And it
Yeah.
barely fit over the adjusting screw. So
That's pretty.
In
got
all
lucky.
honesty, Steve, I don't have that in my regular workbox.
Yeah.
I don't have any springs. Ooh, note
Better
to
go
self.
get one.
Note to self.
You never know.
Man, I'm gonna tell this story right now because I don't want to forget. I tell this story to Lisa a lot, and I've told this story on this show a lot. When I first started with Pat Green, the first proper gig I did was at the 930 Club, so it's my favorite venue. But the second big gig I did was opening for Sugarland at Red Rocks, and I thought, oh, it's all gonna be like this. But that's where I met you, and I remember like I was completely fucking green in this business, Steve. And you must have spotted that you came and you said, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And you let me look over your shoulder and we kept in touch. And then we did that cattle Baron's ball with you guys.
Yes.
And it was so good to see you. And I remember you just shared your knowledge with me and you said, hey, there's a gig coming up. Let me get your information. You put me up for gigs. I didn't get them, but you thought a lot of me, it seemed like. And I've always said that, like you were the first guy that really took me under your wing. And I'll always be thankful for that. And to this day, man, I use you as an example when I meet young cats. Because I still think of myself as new in this business, but when I meet young cats that want to do that, I try and use that the way you were with me. And
Right.
I think a lot of you, man. So
I appreciate that. I try to treat, I look at it as like, I'm not gonna do this forever, and if I can impart some kind of knowledge onto other people, that's great. I've come across, and I'm sure you have too, you've come across guys in this business that are like, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to tell you anything. They don't want to do, but like, why, what's the point of that? We're all in this business together. We're all here to help each other out. So,
yeah.
I do that. I still do that to this day, especially with some of these newer opening acts that come out with us. It's like, hey, it's my world. Here it is. If you need anything, let me know.
Yeah. And there's no room to be a dick, but I remember you gave me a list of tools and you said you could go to Stu Mac, but you're going to break the bank. That all these tools you can get at Home Depot. And,
Right.
I was so excited. And to this day, I still spend way too much money on tools. Way too much.
Trust me.
There's always something new coming out.
How do you think the music industry has changed in the 31 years since you've been working within it?
Wow. Well, I think the industry itself hasn't changed. The thing that's changed the most is the technology of it all. Back then you didn't have social media. You didn't have, now you have artists making it because they have a big social media following, which is great. You might not have ever heard of these people unless somebody saw them first on their YouTube channel or whatever. And some of these people are fantastic, and I never would have heard of them. So I think the technology part, both in promoting bands and also just in the gear that you're using, is just made it a lot easier on my end. I'm not going to say it's made it a lot easier on the musician's end. I think they still have to work to get their name out there and to get noticed. But I think it's easier for them now, because now, before, you would play you'd play these small gigs in bars and hope somebody would notice you, and then your name got out there enough that maybe a record guy would say, hey, I've been hearing a lot about these people, let me go check them out. Now you don't really see that too much. It's just, hey, look, this person's got 400,000 followers. Let's go talk to them and see what they got.
Yeah. Is there like a certain like memory that stands out in all these years, like coming from where you came from, that you never thought you'd do, but or something that just sticks out?
there's no specific memory. I look back and I feel truly blessed that, I've been to a lot of places that, the normal John Q. public, will never get a chance to see. I've done gigs in, Israel, St. Petersburg, Russia, all over more recently, we actually went to Djibouti with Darius and entertained the troops. So I think it's just the places that I've got to go and the things that I've got to see. I'm taking advantage of more now in my later stages than I did when I first started. When I first started, my first trip to Europe and the London, whatever, it's like, oh, let's go to as many bars as I can go to and get drunk and yada yada. Now it's like, okay, well, I've never been to this museum or I've never been here. I want to go do this instead of going out and getting drunk and then sleeping till 2:00 the next morning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's just more appreciation of what I get to do and where I get to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I didn't do the drinking thing, but I never went and experienced the cities that I was in
Right.
till late. I finally went to Stonehenge.
Oh, nice. I've yet to go there. I haven't been there yet. So I mean, the band gets to go do all these things, and that's funny because my family they still don't know exactly what I do. They know I'm out traveling. They know I work with bands, and the most often thing is like, oh, that is so cool. You get to go to all these places around the world and see all this, and it's like, yeah, I've seen the loading dock of this in London. I've seen the loading dock of this venue in Germany. I've seen the loading dock here.
Yeah.
Unless you get a day off, that's
I've been in this airport.
Yeah.
This hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny. I can't even remember the city that we were in. I mean, it was just a long run. Dead tired, got in late, woke up, called the front desk because this was like back in the time when no cell phones or anything like that. Woke up very confused, called the front desk, said, "Hey man, I know this is going to sound really stupid, but what city is this right now?" And he just started laughing at me. It's like, "Oh, well, you're in, Hamburg, Germany right now." Okay, thanks, man.
That happened. That even happens now. Like, we're in one place right now. We've been here for months, and I'm like, what day is it?
Yeah.
Like you wake up, you're like, it. Hell, that happens to me at home, Steve. When I'm not working, I wake up. What day is it?
I don't think that's ever happened at home. But yeah, that was one of my, oh God, what am I doing? So
what kind of advice would you give to someone who is trying to get into the music industry or do something like you do? Youngster, young gun.
I think the only thing I can tell them is don't go into it thinking you're all that. Kind of. I'm not saying keep your mouth shut, but I'm just saying, listen, keep your ears open to what the people around you are doing and what they're saying. I did a gig once, and I asked a question of this kid, and it was regarding a drum kit or something, and he goes, "Oh, I don't." And this kid was like, 18, 19 years old. And he goes, "Well, I don't know anything about the drum stuff, man. You can ask me anything you want about guitars because I know everything there is to know about guitars." Like,
not too humble.
Yeah. Okay, guy. No worries. I know where you're coming from now. That was one of those. I looked at him and like, okay, so you were probably 3 years old when I started doing this, and you know everything there is to know about guitars.
Yeah.
I don't even know everything there is to know about guitars. I'll be the first to tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's constant learning on the job. I noticed
absolutely
cats come in and they're very technically inclined and they know they could probably take apart a guitar and put it back together, but it's that live gig, man, that you have to learn, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
It's that like you said, thinking on your toes, seeing a ballpoint pen and go, I can use that spring for the intonation. It's that, you know, there's young cats that come in and they don't want to learn that stuff.
Right. Right. And I also had a production manager, you know, it's like, I need I need a speaker cable. I went to him and said, I need a speaker cable. He looked at me, he goes, well, do you have ends? I said, yeah. Do you have cable? I said, yeah. He goes, come on. And, you know, boom, boom, boom. 5 minutes later, he made a speaker cable. I was like, okay. You know, I obviously didn't, I was young. I really didn't think about that kind of route. I was just like, I need this. We need to go buy it. He's like, if you've got it in your work box, you can make it, you can fix it, you can do whatever you need, depending on the situation and what you have.
Yeah.
So don't always think you have to go out and buy something to, you know, to get it right.
Yeah. And that's what I go back to. Like I say, I bring you up a lot. You know, you told me like Phillips, you know, Gaff, this is what you're gonna need to get through it. You could get through any gig with this stuff.
Right.
But is coming from then to now, is there a specific tool you can't do your job without?
Not really. I mean, I guess, you know, obviously just like we went, like you, just the basic, you know, I can't do a gig without, you know, at least a set of cutters, a couple screwdrivers, and a string winder.
Yeah.
As far as guitars. So, you know, that's kind of the basic. And a tuner, whether it be a clip-on tuner or pedal tuner. It's like I've had people, oh, you don't tune that by ear? Dude, you try tuning a banjo on a live stage by ear. If you can do that, more power to you. But I can't. I can't even hear it.
What's your secret? What's your secret to tuning acoustic instruments on stage? Everybody has a different thing. People have made the pickups that you stick on there. People use the preamp pedal going into the tuner. I run off stage to tune an acoustic guitar, run it back for the one that I have during the show. Like I run out as quiet as I can to tune his guitar and then bring it back, you know, because
yeah, there is no secret. I mean, you said, I've done the same thing. I've never had to do it with an acoustic guitar. Luckily, it all depends on where you're set up and, you know, proximity to the speakers and how loud it is on stage. Thankfully, we're not that loud on stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had to do that. And mostly with, you know, like I said, the banjo and the mandolin. It's like, man, it is too loud because I don't know, you know, banjos, that big round head is basically a big microphone and it's picking up everything around.
Yeah.
So I've had to go run off stage, go find somewhere a little bit quiet, make sure it's good to go, and then run back. There's no secret. I mean, that's just dealing with it, you know?
Yeah. Well, we talked about you being my I use the word mentor a lot, Steve, because you came into my career at the perfect time and you were kind to me. Was there anyone like that with you when you first started, or were you just kind of thrown in, just learning?
I'm trying to think back on some of the, you know, when we're just starting out and some of the opening or some of the guys that we toured with that were, you know, the headliner guys. And honestly, yeah, no, I don't think there's anyone in specifically that I can think of that, you know, kind of, you know, again, I watched them like you know, I guess like you did with me. I stood there and I watched how they did things. Pretty much everything I know, to be honest, I've stolen off of other people because, you know, you see things and you see what works and what doesn't work. And it's like, oh, I'm doing that wrong. So I need to do it his way because that makes more sense and that makes it easier.
Yeah.
So I think that's the key. Just, you know, finding what works for you with what instruments you have to work with. Because everything is different.
Yeah. I've been on tours where the opening act is a young guy, maybe just and I go over and watch them even, and I'm like, why am I not doing it that way? Like this kid's got it all figured out. It's his first tour, you know?
Absolutely. I've done that too. I've gone that route too, you know, forever. I don't know. I don't know if you use the automatic peg winders now the restring when you're
Yeah.
restringing stuff. Years and years and years and years, I just manually was string lining, and then finally, I was gifted one through one of our vendors,
Uh-huh.
and I tried it, and I was like, man, why haven't I not been using this the whole
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
I would see the drill bit, the guys that would, makeshift their own by getting a string liner and cutting it and shaving it down and putting it in the end of a little drill bit as a drill, using a drill and everything. It's like, oh, that seems kind of lazy to me, but now I get it. Trust me. Especially when you have to restring 6 different instruments, in a day.
Totally.
Or in the morning before, like I said, on my busy day, restringing everything and changing drum heads. You got to do it as quick as I got to get through it as quick as I can.
Yeah.
So when you're not on tour, how do you like to unwind? Do you have any hobbies or?
No, just chilling at home. Really, just kind of relaxing as much as I can. It depends on how much time I've got. It's funny in the rock world. You guys, they like to stay out for extended periods of time. I love telling the story that, when I was with Cheryl, I walked out of my house and I didn't walk back in the front door of my house until 6 months later. No lie. We were gone for 6 straight months. Country guys, they don't like to do that. They want to be home with their families. So we're basically weekend warriors. I leave on Thursday or Friday. We do a weekend's worth of shows. I'm home on Sunday or Monday, and then I get 2 or 3 days to kind of relax and recoup and recharge myself. By that time, it's you come home, you take care of what you need to do at home, pay bills, do some cleaning, go grocery shopping, normal people stuff.
Yeah.
I guess that's my relaxing stuff.
Laundry.
Oh yeah, lots of that. Oh, my wife, God bless her, I love her to death. When I come home, she's got all the laundry done, so all I have to do is do my stuff. So there's not 8 loads of laundry to do. It's just my stuff, really.
Yeah. How long's it been since you did a rock tour where you were gone for a few months?
Quite a while. I mean, even the Hootie guys, and I guess it all depends on where you live as well, and as far as how easy it is for you to get home. I was living in Nashville for a while. It got a little bit too crazy for me, so I've been in Colorado for 3 years now, Colorado Springs. I think the only time I really have to be gone is when we do a West Coast run, because it's kind of hard to fly in and out.
Yeah.
If especially if it's like a 2.5 week run, you're doing shows and you only got 2 or 3 days to drive from California to Washington or Oregon or wherever. So you're spending a day driving, a day off, another day off, and then your show day. So it doesn't make any sense. And I get it. It doesn't make any sense fiscally for the band to have to pay to get you home and back, every other day. I get that.
Yeah.
So when it's a long run out the West Coast or anything like that, I'll 2 weeks, maybe 10 days to 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when I was with Pat, we would do the West Coast run, the annual West Coast run, and then the annual East Coast run.
Yep.
And those would be anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. But everything else was Weekend Warrior. And like, that's how I started, Weekend Warrior. So when I started getting rock gigs, or should I say like real touring gigs, right, I didn't know what it was like to be gone. I used to say 6 weeks is my limit. Now, before I start kind of losing my head, but I think, the older I get.
I don't know if I could do anything more than 3 to 4 weeks now. I think I would be like you. I'd lose my mind.
Yeah, it starts to wear on you. But like I said, I haven't been doing it for 31 years. I've been doing it quite a while, but not 31 years.
Yeah.
Is there before we let you go, there's one more thing. Have you ever had a nightmare gig where you thought like, I'm definitely going home after tonight?
Oh God, let's see. I don't really think so. I mean, we've all had those gigs where things keep going wrong. No, not where when I got done with the gig, I have never. I guess I've been lucky. I've never gotten done with a show like that and said, "God, I'm done. I just can't do this anymore."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's been a couple of taxing days, but you kind of try to put it out of your mind, and next day you're over it, and you do it all over again, and hope it doesn't go that way again.
Right. Yeah. I
So,
always say if it happened tonight, it's not ever going to happen again. Um, that's how I like to think, but
right.
that's just wishful thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wishful thinking.
That's exactly. It's like I don't go that far, but I'll go as far as saying, well, I hope that hasn't happened for a while. Another night,
Yeah.
because it's gonna happen.
I usually start my gig by talking into our talkback mic to my drum tech, who's my best friend on the gig, and I always say, "Hey, it was nice knowing you, but it's a nice night they figure me out." But
yeah, I know that feeling. I've often thought, I've been kind of faking my way through this for 31 years, but then I get people like you tell me, what I've done for you, and it kind of makes me feel good, and makes me proud that I've helped. I'm doing
Well, to
something
be proud.
right, I think.
He always says positive things about you.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, your name's come up on this podcast several times because like I said, I think a lot of you were there in when I started, and I started late in this business, but I still even today my confidence is not what it is, but it wasn't where it needed to be then. And I could have met asshole guitar tech who said, stay out of my world, leave me alone,
Right.
And I didn't. I met you, brother. So
well, I appreciate that, man. I kind of I remember the first time we met at the pack. You were doing Pat Green.
yeah.
And it's, and I don't know if you're the same way, but for me it's like a vibe that a person gives off. And I knew that the vibe you were giving me was like, all right, this guy's good. We're gonna be friends. I can tell already.
Yeah. Ultimately, that's what it was. We became friends. You trusted me, and you trusted me with gigs, and that meant a lot. So, thank you.
Oh, dude,
it means a lot that I can tell you on our platform that thank you, man. I want the people that listen to know who you are and know why I tend to treat people the way I do.
Well, thank you, man. That means a lot. It does. Coming from you, it's like I said, I love you, brother. I do.
I love you, man.
It's actually Lisa's going, all right, enough of this.
Enough of this bro fest.
Right?
Bro fest.
No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah,
I'm very happy that
anyway, thank you for your time today, man. We really appreciate and I wanted to ask you because when we started this, we were getting a lot of text, but I'm glad we waited till then because we're in a stride. We're very comfortable with who we are now, Lisa and I, with talking to people. But our podcast is called "Is Breakfast Included?" And if it was included, Steve, what would you have
for breakfast?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, I'm pancakes. I love the sweet, pancakes.
Bernie's favorite.
Bacon, bacon and sausage. Pancakes, bacon, sausage. I love that.
Coffee,
I had pancakes and bacon this morning. Let you guys know.
There you go.
I went out and I treated myself to pancakes and extra crispy bacon.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely.
Oh, brother, thank you for your time. It's been good talking to you. And I hope we cross paths real soon. Right on, Mr. Steve Castro. That one was for me. That interview was for me, guys. Anyway, I just really wanted to talk to him. He was very generous with his time. And then he told us that he had been waiting on us to ask him, which is really cool. But I think a lot of Steve, and it was great having him on the show. We had a lot of fun. If you happen to see Darius Rucker out on the road, man, run up, scream from the barrier, "Hey, Castro!" or Hootie and the Blowfish, either one. He's out with both of them. Visit our website, isbreakfast.com. Check out our online store, our YouTube channel. Go to our podcast site. You can find it at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google's, all the other. I don't think you can find it on Tidal anymore. But subscribe. leave a comment, rate it 5 stars. And if you're at a store, buy a shirt. All right, guys, I'm out of words. I'm done. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.